for the Take 5 for 4.6, you should have written a speech as if you were at the tennis courts, ready to discuss what do you want? What are your goals for your people? What do you want to accomplish? Okay. So we left off with the tennis court oath. That was June 20th, 1789. It's important to remember that Versailles, while separate from Paris, isn't that far. It's 10 miles in a straight line, about 13 and a half, 14 miles on the roads. And throughout the process of the Estates General and then the Third Estate leaving and calling themselves the National Assembly, the press has been there every step of the way and has been reporting everything back to the citizens in Paris. So the citizens of Paris are really excited about this potential that, the people are standing up for themselves. The Third Estate is standing up for itself. And they actually have a bit of a champion. They have a member of the government who is supporting them, and that is the finance minister. Jacques Necker is his name. And King Louis XVI fires him on July 11th because he sees him, you're helping the Third Estate. You are helping these potential rebels, and I don't like it. So Jacques Necker is fired, and again, this is reported back to the citizens, and the people are not happy at all. They said, that was the one guy who was on our team. That was the one guy who was looking out for us in the government. So the people are getting upset. The people are gathering together in the city, potentially sort of mobs. At the same time, this rumor spreads that the king is trying to prevent the people from meeting, and that he is sending his troops, that the king is sending his army into Paris to squash any potential rebellion, to put down any demonstrations or protests. So the people have to decide what to do. Are we going to allow the king to do this? This leads us to Bastille Day, very, very important day in the French Revolution. And this is on July 14th, 1789, 3 days after Jacques Necker is fired. The Parisians, afraid of the army that could potentially be coming to squash them, decide that they need to go to the Bastille. It is in the heart of Paris. It was both a royal prison as well as an armory, meaning it was a storage place for weapons and guns. They want the guns because they want to protect themselves from this oncoming army. It's about a mob of about 800 people or so who go to the Bastille on the 14th. And at first they negotiate with the governor, but the shot is accidentally fired and chaos ensues. The mob sort of mows down the two guards. They kill the they kill the guards, and then they kill and cut off the head of the governor of the prison. He is the symbol for the royal power in Paris. And they free all 7 prisoners. But the main goal was to get those guns so that then they could barricade the city. They could close the city gates, because at this time Paris is a walled city. Close the gates, build up a bunch of stuff in front of it, and prevent the army from getting into Paris. The citizens are protecting themselves against the royal army. So, there's a video about the Bastille if you want to watch that. If you're in Canvas, just over to the right. And in that video, it talks about how the king, after 3 days, so on about the 17th of July, Louis XVI comes to Paris and kisses this new flag. Now, that might seem pretty simple, but a flag is very symbolic, has a lot of power. So, because of Bastille Day, we go from the royal flag, white with the fleur-de-lis, the symbol of French royalty, now to the 3-colored, or the tricolor, French flag. And that's the same flag that it is today. So the king has finally started to realize, hey, the people are upset. I need to do something as king, potentially. More than just talk about the problems. I might need to do more. So the king is starting to realize this. Again, this is all happening in Paris and Versailles. And as news of these events spreads to the rest of the country, it becomes known as the Great Fear. Because around the country, people, especially nobles in the church, they are afraid. What if this rebellion thing spreads? Are the peasants in my local neighborhood going to attack me? And the peasants and the people of the Third Estate around the country, they're getting excited that finally somebody is taking a stand. One major event in the month of August is the night of August 4th. The National Assembly, remember, the third estate breaks away. They can declare themselves the government or the representative assembly. On the night of August 4th, they pass a bunch of laws to start chipping away at the Ancien regime. They're trying to get rid of all remnants of the Ancien regime. They get rid of the tithe that required 10% you had to pay to the tax. They get rid of a lot of feudal dues or benefits that nobles would get simply because they were noble. So they're going to start little by little getting rid of the symbols and the practices of the Ancien regime in France. Another thing that happens in August 1789 is, the people are excited. They've had, some momentum, and they're inspired by the Americans. They're copying the Americans. They're like, we should have a document that has what are our goals in this revolution. We said at the tennis court we want to write a constitution, but what do we want to accomplish for ourselves? And so, very similar to the Declaration of Independence, they write down what do they want to see happen in a new system. What are their goals? So this is great, but the problem is they are just goals. They don't create a way to accomplish these goals, a path so they can be successful. They include many of the things from the American Declaration: life, liberty, property, these natural rights. But now the French add on the right to resist oppression. They have been oppressed in many, many ways, so they are looking to be free of that oppression. They want freedom of speech and freedom of religion. The Catholic Church had a lot of power in France. They want to be free from that oppression. Freedom of speech, especially look at Voltaire. He was thrown in jail. He was thrown in the Bastille. He was exiled to England because he was speaking out against nobles, against the church, and against the king. So they want to be able to say what they want to say, following the Americans. Another thing is political activity. The citizens want to be involved. So they create voting laws that any Frenchman who owns property can vote, which is a big change. Before you had to be noble or in the church. Now, women aren't included. That is not unlikely. And only allowing property owning men. That is also not strange for the time. Because these people, they own part of the country. They have invested financially into this country. So that it is more likely that the people who own property are perhaps a bit more educated and have more of an interest in seeing laws passed that will benefit the entire community. By September, they've got a lot of momentum, but nothing has really changed for the citizens. Lots of great ideas, events, laws written, but the day-to-day life of the people is no different. So that brings us to October 1789. In Paris, the people are still starving, and there's a group known as the market women or the fish women. These were the women working in the early morning markets where food was sold and traded. They are tough. They are moving around vegetable crates and boxes of supplies and maybe working with their husbands, the butchers, and chopping sides of beef. So these are really tough, gritty ladies. And it's important to remember that they are women because they feel the pressure. They are still unable to feed their children as they would like to. So they're sort of a rumor spreads through the market that day in October 5th, 1789, and they just, they're fed up. They want more grain. Where is the flour so that we can feed our children bread? They march to the city hall, Hotel de Ville in Paris, and the mayor says, I'm so sorry. I have no flour to give you, but I've heard a rumor. I've heard a rumor that at Versailles, the king and queen are hiding grain. They are hoarding it from the people, so you should check there. And these market women get all riled up, and they start marching the 14 or so miles to Versailles in the rain. Now, there may have been a few men who joined them or so, but these people are desperate. They are willing to go that distance to get what they need. The royal family hears reports that there's this mob of women coming, and then they hear them. They can hear these women coming. There's about 6,000 of them who eventually make their way to Versailles that week in October. When they arrive, there is a representative who has sort of been chosen by the women, and she goes up and she speaks with King Louis XVI. And he's never really seen this type of he's never really seen this kind of desperation up close. He sees, wow, she's really starving. She is desperate. And he agrees, of course, whatever. I'm not hiding anything. I have no secrets from the people. I'm not hiding their grain. But whatever access I have to grain, I will give. So he orders 2 whole granaries to be open and the grain given to the people of Paris. So the women are placated for a little bit. And then around midnight that evening, they start chanting, "We want the queen. We want the queen," because they want to see Marie Antoinette, this woman who they see as the symbol of all of their problems, their scapegoat. Marie Antoinette comes out onto the balcony overlooking these 6,000 women, and she bows her head in a symbol of respect, sort of, I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss. But Marie Antoinette is still trying to do what is best for the people. Just a few hours later, then they hear that the women have become angry again, and they break into the palace at Versailles. And the royal guard convinces the royal family, you know what? It might be better if you move to Paris. So as a direct result of this women's march, the royal family leaves Versailles and moves into a royal palace in Paris. And now the National Assembly also is going to move into Paris. Louis is trying to be a good king. He wants to be at the heart of his people. He wants to be able to respond to them in a timely fashion. So he thinks he is doing the right thing. But the royal family really never will return to Versailles. Okay, we've talked about these causes a ton, and I just want to continue talking about them because they are important. We've talked about the long-term causes, that the Third Estate was taxed way too much, that the Third Estate had very few freedoms, political, religious, social freedoms, that the famine hits and the people are desperate for food. Like a spring, these causes are winding and going on and on and on. The spring is being wound tighter and tighter. And then the short-term cause, the event that's going to cause the spring to snap, is the storming of the Bastille. At this point, we finally have some real action, and this is considered the beginning of the French Revolution. That is it for 4.6.